Okay, let's make a start. Everyone else is coming in. Well, my name is Marcus Anthony, and I'm going to talk to you today about intuition and how to use intuition. And I spent quite a long time, about 20 years actually, researching intuition and also practicing intuition. Because I spent a lot of time traveling around the world and learning with different spiritual teachers. Has anyone here ever seen my website or heard of me at all? Okay, good. That way I can start from the very beginning. So basically, what I set out to do when I started researching intuition is make it more clear. Because, you know, it's very unclear sometimes what people mean when they say, when they use the word intuition. And what I found out was that, some papers written on intuition actually had up to 33 different kinds of cognitive processes or mental processes that they describe as intuition. So different people may mean something completely different. Now, just to make things simple, what I like to do is divide intuition into two different kinds. The first is mundane intuition. Mundane just means down to earth or grounded. So it's the kind of intuition you get when your brain is processing information unconsciously or just behind the scene. Let's say you meet somebody and you might pick up something unconsciously about them. For example, you might know that they're perspiring slightly, they're sweating slightly, or that they're breathing slightly fast. So even though you might notice this, your brain might be saying, oh, this person's a bit nervous. There's something not quite right here about what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to cheat me or something. They're not really relaxed. So this might be something happening below the surface. That kind of intuition doesn't require anything extraordinary. It's something that's accepted by modern science. Now the second kind of intuition, though, the one that I'm mostly interested in is spiritual intuition. I call it integrated intelligence because it involves an integration or bringing together of your individual mind and also information which comes from beyond the mind. And that information can come from several sources. It can come from the environment or actual physical parts of the world or the universe. So in other words, there can be exchange of information from the environment to you. So if you walk in a room, you might get a sense of something that's happened in that room or something that doesn't feel right or it feels a bit spooky. You're kind of picking up some information in the room. And some people say that you can sense the same things when you go to the battlegrounds where the Civil War was in the United States. You can almost feel the energy of what happened in those places, as if the past has a memory. This would be an example of the environment communicating with you. Now, it can also include things at other times as well, the past and the present. And you can also pick up intuition from other people as well, because people's minds are actually in communication with each other all the time. We're projecting energy or thought towards each other, usually unconsciously. And I learned through a particular process to be able to read that kind of energy, so I can read it quite well. It took me a lot of years of work. I met some incredible people, so I was quite lucky to be able to develop that capacity. Well, lucky perhaps isn't the right word, but it took a lot of work to be able to do it. So there's always information passing between people's minds. It doesn't matter where they are, it could be on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter. And you can also pick up information intuitively from spiritual realms. So, in other words, the people communicating with you are not in the physical body. It can be deceased people, parents, especially people you've had a relationship with when you're alive. And it can also be spiritual entities, so they may not necessarily be human or what we would consider human. That's right, spirit guides is the most common kind. So all these things are real. I've come to see that they are real, even though they're not necessarily acknowledged in society. So integrated intelligence or spiritual intuition includes all these realms of extrasensory perception. And the key point of my talk today is that these capacities can be developed. People can develop them. Now, it may be true that some people have more ability or they're born with it, right? But people can develop these capacities. I mean, I did myself. When I was about 26 years old, it was about 18 years ago now, I started to develop these abilities by putting myself into a light trance state, just relaxing and watching images flow into the mind. I can also hear things. So the information comes in visual sense, so you can see an image or a picture. Okay, you can hear something, like it's words from a song or someone's voice. Or the third kind of process is through the feeling sense. You can feel something within yourself. And that may or may not register in the body. You may feel a tingling on your arm or on the back of your neck, as the cliche goes. And that can communicate some kind of information to you. So I learned how to tap into all these three areas. Later on, about 3 years after that, I went to New Zealand and I met some very powerful spiritual teachers there. And I worked a lot on my emotional body, especially inner child work. So I worked on a lot of the hurt and the pain that was inside me from my childhood. And as I processed that emotion, I also found that my ability to process intuition increased dramatically as well. Because once you get in contact with your feelings and your body at a closer level, then you can feel intuition much more freely. This is what some people don't quite understand. But it does take, it's not easy work though to do inner child work. Does anyone here ever done any inner child work? Body work, emotional work? Well, this will definitely help you develop your intuition. Okay, so perhaps the next thing I'll talk about is what can you do with intuition? What kind of things can you, what kind of cognitive processes are involved? Well, I've been able to identify at least 7. I've narrowed it down to 7. The first thing is what I call integrated connection, where you sense the connection between things. And this might just be a sense of yourself being connected to some event, like well, there's some connection between me and you, and I should communicate with you. That would be a sense of connection. It might even be understanding how different bodies of knowledge are related to each other at an intuitive level, without necessarily understanding why you know that they're connected. When I studied my doctorate, I used that a lot. Used it in quite a way. It came to me quite a lot. I got connections between things as I studied it, and intuitive. It became known to me intuitively how different things fit together, and you follow the process because it registers as a feeling or an intuition. Sometimes it would be a vision, like I'll wake up and there would be an image or a diagram which would appear in my mind. In one of my books, there's actually a diagram in the back which I hope in the vision. So integrated connection helps you understand the connection between things. Another one is what I call integrated location, where you can locate things intuitively. You get a feeling of where to look for something. So if you're walking through there's a classic case of Michael Talbot, who's a researcher and a physicist. So he did research into physics. He wasn't a physicist himself, he was a philosopher. He'd walk through a library, he'd have a question in his mind, and he just stopped where he sensed it was the right place, and he'd reach up and grab a book. And that's how the beginning of his book, Mysticism and the New Physics, started. He found this question, he walked along according to his story, and he reached up, didn't look, and he found a book which was exactly about theoretical physics. And it was exactly the information that he was looking for, so he said. I also use that quite deliberately in my research as well. Because by the time I researched intuition, I already had quite a good capacity to use it. The research came after I'd already done the work on intuition. So you can locate things as well. There's another one called integrated recognition, where you recognize somebody or something, even though you may never have met them or you don't quite know why that's the case. So someone's walking towards you maybe, and suddenly you just feel you've got to speak to this person. So you recognize them at some level, there's some connection there. Or it might be just recognizing a book. So in a sense you feel something about it, or you understand something about it without necessarily knowing what it is. And then you take the next step, of course, and that is to open the book or talk to the person, if you allow yourself to follow the intuition. So acting on the intuition is really, really important. That's what establishes and builds intuition. So integrated recognition is the third one. The next one is diagnosis, or integrated diagnosis. So you can diagnose a problem or work out what caused the problem, what the source of the problem is intuitively, without necessarily knowing all the details or all the information about that problem. I had a friend in Australia who told me he was very good at this. He worked in BHP, the big steelworks in Newcastle, Australia, where I was living at the time. And when the machinery broke down, because he worked on the floor, and he was kind of the manager, he would get an intuitive sense of where to look. And he said he was right much of the time. And he said it wasn't just because he knew the floor or the sounds or whatever and what was wrong. It was some kind of extrasensory perception. He said he was on his friend's boat one day and the boat broke down. And it was a big boat. And he just said, he intuitively just knew where the problem was. And he said he told his friend to look there. I can't remember the details, I'm not a mechanic. And sure enough, that's where the problem was. So he somehow had the ability to diagnose problems. In his case, because he was a mechanic, or worked as a mechanical engineer in BHP, he was able to use that process in his particular work. You can also use that diagnosis in whatever problems or area you work. If you're a doctor, for example, you could intuitively diagnose problems. Some people call medical intuitives, like Carolyn Mace, do this. They can sense what's wrong with someone without necessarily having a history or any records of what's wrong with them. Okay. And the next one is evaluation, where you sense the different value on different choices that you're about to make. So if you've got 3 or 4 jobs that you could choose from to work, which one is the best for me? Where you can sense, get a sense of which one has the most value for you amongst different choices. So we're faced with many choices in life. Sometimes we don't always know why it's the best choice. But you can get a sense of what energy is in that particular choice. For example, once I was offered a job in Taiwan just after I finished my doctorate. And it was in a university, a pretty good university, but I turned it down purely based on by projecting my feelings into that environment in the future. It just didn't feel right. So I made my decision not to go there, not to accept the job based on my intuition. And you can actually learn how to do that. Project part of your own energy into a future and sense what that energy is. Okay. And another, the sixth one, the second last one, is foresense, which is a kind of foresight. So you can sense things that are about to happen. And sometimes this might come to you as a vision or a dream or something like that. Other times it might just be a feeling. You can feel, don't do this, don't go there, or I should go to this place. You may not even know why it is the case, but you can get a sense of the future before it even happens. Some of these processes are mixed up. Like when I was projecting my feelings into the future in that position in Taiwan, that was also a case of foresense as well as evaluation. The last one is inspiration. So sometimes we can get inspiration from intuition. And that can actually come from a number of different sources as well. Sometimes, if you're studying something, I believe there's like a connection with that thing that can be like a spiritual connection. If you're a biologist, for example, studying a particular species, somehow some of the information within that species can actually be transferred unconsciously to your mind, and you can start to understand it better with the connection. You can also get inspiration literally from spirit guides, and this is something that's happened to me many times, where ideas and suggestions and images come through the mind, and my belief is that they come from spiritual sources. And I've actually had conversations with spirit guides. Usually when I'm dreaming, I'll be talking to somebody, I'll be sitting there, or I'll be over my bed or something like that, talking and saying something. It seems to be the time that they come through most clearly as when you're sleeping. And all people get these suggestions from spirit guides, though they may not necessarily be aware of where the information is coming from. And you can actually tap into that inspiration by asking questions and asking for inspiration, asking for guidance. How does this work? Grant me some guidance on how to write this book, or whatever you're doing. Might even be creating something at work. You can use that inspiration. It's not always on tap. Some people There are times when it's working wrong and there's times when it doesn't. And because I followed my passion of being a writer, I find it's very easy to tap into it as a writer. Okay, so that's basically what I was going to talk about today. And you can actually learn how to use these processes, and that's what I teach people. If you are interested, I'm running a series of workshops coming up in about 5 weeks' time. And it'll probably be a whole year. I'm teaching people how to use all these processes in life, in love, and in business if you'd like to join me. And, okay, so any questions? Yes.
On three different things. First of all, when you said about childhood pain and working on that, so why is it that anybody has childhood pain?
Well,
I know Freud was the one who said that man's condemned by his childhood. It seems like we internalize every day and we put a life on our lives. And what we do with problems, whatever problems they may be, whether they're criminal, whether it's normal people, everybody gets traced back to childhood.
Well, there's probably two different issues there. Yes, I think the first thing is, of course, you shouldn't use it as an excuse necessarily for your behaviour, if you're a criminal. So that is the second issue. You may have been hinting at it, I'm not sure. But as far as childhood pain goes, when the child expects to be loved unconditionally when it's born. It's a natural